Actress Natalie Wood was intoxicated and angry after an argument between her husband and actor Christopher Walken when she stormed off a yacht this weekend and apparently fell into the sea. The report said there was no evidence of foul play in the 43-year-old actress's death.
For over 40 years, one chilling question has haunted Hollywood, whispered in documentaries, scribbled in police reports, and murmured through late-night interviews. All roads lead to Robert Wagner. Once adored for his charm and elegance, Wagner became something else entirely, a living mystery, a husband forever caught between love, guilt, and suspicion that refused to fade. Now at 95, the glow of fame has vanished, leaving only the truth he's carried since that freezing night in 1981, the night that shattered everything. It was Thanksgiving weekend, November 28th, when Hollywood's golden couple, Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner, set sail on their yacht Splendour for what should have been a quiet escape near Catalina Island. Joining them were Natalie's brainstorm co-star Christopher Walken and the yacht's captain, Dennis Davern. For Natalie, it was meant to be a calm break between films, a short breath away from the chaos of fame. But instead, it became the night that would define Wagner's life forever. The day began easy. Laughter, champagne, and cheerful photos. Locals even saw them at Doug's Harbor Reef restaurant, smiling and toasting to friendship. But as the drinks poured, the mood shifted, and the tension began to rise. Walken later revealed that the dinner talk turned tense when Natalie spoke about reviving her acting career. That's when Wagner's jealousy began to crack through the charm. In his 2008 memoir Pieces of My Heart, Wagner even confessed, jealousy was the best and worst part of him. When they returned to the Splendour around 10 p.m., the warmth was gone. The captain remembered the laughter fading into uneasy whispers. Soon, those whispers turned into shouts. Davern said Wagner suddenly slammed a wine bottle against the table, shards flying, his voice trembling with rage as he accused Natalie of flirting with Walken. Walken tried to step in but quickly backed away, retreating to his cabin. Minutes later, silence. Then came dread. Natalie was missing. Wagner claimed he thought she'd gone to bed, but when he checked, she wasn't there. And something felt terribly wrong. The yacht's small dinghy was gone too, but Natalie was terrified of deep water. The thought of her taking that rubber boat out alone, barefoot, and in her nightgown, didn't make sense to anyone who knew her. At 3:30 a.m., Wagner finally called the Coast Guard. They scoured the Black Ocean for hours. Freezing winds, crashing waves, and no sign of Natalie. When dawn broke on November 29th, the truth surfaced. Literally, Natalie's body was found floating face down just a mile from the yacht. She was only 43, dressed in a thin nightgown, socks, and a red parka, far too light for the icy air. The coroner called it an accident, but the bruises on her arms and legs, the scratches on her neck, and her lifelong fear of deep water told another story, one far darker. Hollywood went silent, but behind the glamour, whispers kept spreading. Jealousy, rage, regret, three shadows that would haunt Robert Wagner forever. In the days following her death, investigators scrambled to stitch together a version of events that looked clean, safe, and free of scandal. Wagner claimed that after the argument with Christopher Walken, Natalie had simply gone to bed. Later, he said, she must have gone out to secure the dinghy. But that story only raised more questions. Wagner insisted he'd heard the small boat bumping against the hull, assuming Natalie slipped and fell into the cold ocean. For a while, the public believed it, but soon the cracks began to show. Hours later, the yacht's dinghy, the Valiant, was found drifting silently in the waves. The motor was off, the keys still in the ignition, and the oars neatly tied down, untouched. Something about that night didn't add up. It didn't look like anyone had ever used the dinghy. Investigators grew suspicious. If Natalie had truly gone to secure it, why hadn't she untied the oars or started the motor? Even stranger, the light switch was off, and there were no footprints or marks showing she'd ever climbed aboard. Something wasn't right. With every clue, the accident theory began to crumble. Then the autopsy results arrived, and they changed everything. Natalie's blood alcohol level was 0.14%, and traces of seasickness meds and painkillers were found in her system, enough to leave her dizzy and vulnerable. But the real shock came from the bruises. fresh, dark marks on her arms, knees, and face, suggesting a struggle happened before she hit the water. In 2013, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office reopened the case, releasing a chilling update. Natalie's injuries may have occurred before she entered the water. That single statement shattered the story of a simple fall and reignited the suspicion that had haunted Wagner for decades. Then came the witnesses, Marilyn Wayne and John Payne, who were anchored nearby that night. They claimed they heard a woman's desperate screams echoing over the water for nearly 15 minutes. "Help me! Someone please help me!" Wayne said the voice was terrified, unforgettable. Then came a man's voice, calm but slurred. "Okay, honey, we're coming to get you." But no one ever came. The ocean fell silent once more. Over the years, Robert Wagner's story shifted, sometimes subtly, sometimes completely. In 1981, he told detectives Natalie had simply vanished. Later, he claimed she went to tie up the dinghy. And in his 2008 memoir, Pieces of My Heart, he described it all as a tragic accident. But investigators weren't buying it. Lieutenant John Coroner of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department said in 2018, he's constantly changed his story a little bit, and his version just doesn't add up. By 2012, Natalie's cause of death was officially changed to drowning and other undetermined factors. That same year, Wagner was publicly named a person of interest. Detectives admitted his timeline made no sense. Yet, without witnesses or physical proof, the case couldn't move forward. It remained frozen, trapped between suspicion and heartbreak. For detectives, the truth always felt just out of reach. For Wagner, it became a shadow he could never shake. No denial, no apology, no interview could make it disappear. But one person refused to let silence win: Lana Wood, Natalie's younger sister. While Wagner faded from the spotlight, Lana stepped into it, determined to seek justice. She never accepted the accident story, repeating again and again, "My sister was terrified of water. She would never go near that dinghy, especially not in her nightgown." In her 2021 memoir, Little Sister, My Investigation into the Mysterious Death of Natalie Wood, she laid everything bare: her doubts, her grief, and her fight for the truth. Lana made a bold and shocking accusation. She claimed Wagner's jealousy had exploded into something dangerous that night, something no one dared to admit. She even said Captain Dennis Davern confessed he'd lied to protect Wagner. Her words reignited a fire Hollywood thought had died decades ago. According to Lana, Davern told her Wagner had shouted in rage. Then there was a loud bang. Moments later, Wagner allegedly ordered, "Don't turn on the lights, don't call anyone." That single claim shook Hollywood to its core. Some believed her, convinced she was chasing the truth everyone else was too afraid to face. Others dismissed her as a grieving sister haunted by ghosts. But one thing couldn't be denied: Lana's persistence forced the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to reopen the case. In 2011, new witnesses emerged and old memories resurfaced. A fisherman, just 17 years old the night Natalie died, said he'd heard a woman's terrified screams echoing across the dark waves. Another acquaintance remembered Wagner's temper back in the 1960s, painting a much darker picture of the Hollywood gentleman everyone once idolized. Each new detail chipped away at the tragic accident story Wagner had defended for decades. Yet even with the mounting suspicion and whispers, prosecutors still never brought charges. Then came 2022, the twist no one saw coming. Police announced that Robert Wagner had been officially cleared of direct involvement. "All leads in the Natalie Wood case have been exhausted," the statement read. Just like that, the case was closed. For Lana, it wasn't justice. It was betrayal. "If he truly loved my sister," she said, "why has he stayed silent before justice?" Even now, Lana refuses to let go. She insists Wagner knows more than he's ever confessed. "He was the last person with her," she said, "and that silence is the loudest thing of all." Her words still echo through decades of doubt, keeping the mystery burning while Hollywood tries to forget. After Natalie's death, Wagner's world collapsed overnight. The man once seen as Hollywood's symbol of charm and grace became a headline for all the wrong reasons. His carefully built image shattered the moment Natalie's body was found in the cold waters off Catalina Island. That night didn't just take his wife, it stole his identity. The public wanted answers. The press wanted guilt. His face was plastered across tabloids beside explosive headlines. Murder! Cover up! Jealous rage. Every question that followed him carried one chilling, unspoken thought. Did you kill your wife, Wagner? The man who once thrived under Hollywood's spotlight began hiding from it instead. Wagner canceled appearances, turned down interviews, and disappeared from the public eye. Friends later said he'd become a ghost of himself, still polite when spotted in public, but hollow behind closed doors. For years, he stayed silent, carrying the heavy weight of grief and suspicion on his shoulders. Then, in 2008, he finally broke that silence with his memoir, Pieces of My Heart. It didn't read like a defense. It read like sorrow poured onto paper. Not a day goes by that I don't think of Natalie, he wrote. I loved her with all my heart, and losing her was the darkest moment of my life. His words struck deep, but not everyone believed them. To some, Wagner sounded like a broken man trying to heal. To others, it felt like he was rewriting history to clear his name. When the case was reopened once more, every old headline roared back to life. Talk shows speculated, tabloids picked apart inconsistencies, and even police officers questioned his version of events. Still, Wagner stayed quiet, a silence meant to protect him that only made the whispers louder. Then, in 2020, a new voice emerged, one from the next generation. His daughter, Natasha Gregson Wagner, released the documentary Natalie Wood, What Remains Behind. For the first time, she stepped into the storm herself. Her father had spent years running from the spotlight, but Natasha's goal wasn't to stir up old scandals. It was to reveal the human side of her parents that had been buried under decades of headlines. Love, grief, and everything in between. Still, that shadow from 1981 refuses to fade, a mystery that never dies. It's outrageous, Natasha said. People created this story about my dad, but he loved my mom. He would have given his life for her. She was only 11 when her mother died, and that memory still cuts like glass. Her last moment with Natalie was a hug before the trip. She remembered the softness of her Angora sweater, the scent of her perfume, and the uneasy fear that made her whisper, "Don't go." But Natasha's compassion couldn't silence the storm. Lana Wood still refused to back down, continuing to accuse Wagner in interviews that reignited the feud all over again. Families fractured, fans took sides, and Hollywood watched in tense silence. Through it all, one painful truth remained. Guilty or not, Robert Wagner has lived every day since that night carrying the unbearable weight of Natalie Wood's absence. For him, the real punishment was never the investigation. It was the endless silence that followed. By 2025, Wagner was 95 years old, frail, quiet, and still haunted by a past he could never escape. His body had grown frail, but his mind never escaped that night. It replayed endlessly, like an old film stuck on repeat. Every argument, every sound, every second frozen in time. When Wagner finally agreed to a recorded interview, his voice cracked under the weight of everything left unsaid. "People call me a monster, a liar, a coward," he whispered. "But the truth is simpler. I was a man in love who made mistakes, and I've paid for them every single day since." Those words weren't quite a confession, but they weren't a denial either. They existed in that gray space between guilt and grief, where truth fades into memory. He no longer sounded like a man trying to defend himself, but like someone who had already accepted his own judgment. When asked what really happened that night in November 1981, Wagner hesitated, then said quietly, "After I argued with Chris, I went to find Natalie, and she was gone. I thought she needed time alone. I should have gone after her. Maybe she'd still be here." His eyes filled with tears. "I was the last man with her. I can't deny that." That haunting phrase, "the last man with her," became his lifelong curse. In his final years, he repeated it often, each time sounding smaller, older, more broken. Friends who visited said he rarely spoke of Hollywood anymore, only of Natalie. The fame, the fortune, the movies, none of it mattered anymore. Every conversation circled back to her, Natalie. the love he lost, and the night that refused to let him rest. Wagner never lived near the ocean again. The waves that once soothed him had become unbearable reminders. Instead, he chose quiet inland homes, surrounded by family photos, fading memories, and rooms that always felt too big for one man. His daughter Courtney described his days as peaceful, but heavy. Every time he saw a photo of Mom, she said, he'd go completely silent. You could feel the sadness in the air. It never left him. To outsiders, Robert Wagner still looked like the polished star from Heart to Heart, charming, composed, always camera-ready. But behind closed doors, he was something else entirely. A man undone by love and guilt. He was haunted not just by what people believed, but by what he could never forget. Even at 95, the ocean still called to him, not with peace, but with echoes of that night. The wind, the waves, the whisper of her name, they followed him everywhere. In his private notes, later shared by Natasha, he wrote, "She was my compass, my direction. When she died, I lost all sense of where I was going." He lived a long life, but one shadowed by questions he could never answer. The missing hours, the sound of water, and the name he never stopped whispering, Natalie. After 43 years, the truth behind Natalie Wood's death still drifts somewhere between memory and mystery. Robert Wagner's final words didn't reveal guilt or innocence, only the unbearable weight of regret, the kind that no investigation, no interview, and no headline could ever erase. Decades later, the question still lingers like a ghost over Hollywood. Was it a tragic accident, a flash of anger, or something far more complicated? Only two people truly knew what happened that night, and one of them never came back. So what do you believe? Was Natalie Wood's death a heartbreaking accident, or the result of jealous rage? The ocean may guard its secrets forever, but the whispers will never fade. If you were drawn into this mystery, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more true Hollywood stories that still keep the world guessing. Until next time, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.